Good afternoon. Sadly, we are here today to confirm the first death of a resident of Tulsa County from COVID-19. This individual was a man in his 50s who passed away yesterday. Our sympathies and prayers and thoughts go out to their family. As you know, there are many privacy laws that surround these types of cases. We will not be releasing specific information about this person. What I do want to tell everybody is that we have conducted an exhaustive EPI investigation of this case. We have identified any potential contact tracings. We have notified both school systems and organizations and businesses and individuals who might have been exposed to this person. Those individuals are currently being quarantined. No one is symptomatic. No one is symptomatic in this individual's family. There is no known risk to the community at this time from the illness that this individual suffered. One thing that I think is really important to talk about is that throughout the course of our COVID-19 investigations, most of our cases were travel associated. We have been unable to find any travel association with this case. This is our first confirmed case of community exposure, so we do know now that we have community spread. It was also announced earlier today that we now have 5 positive cases in Tulsa. We still know that our very first case is recovered. Everyone else is still recovering. There's been lots of questions about testing capability. We do know that testing capability is dwindling, not only in Tulsa, not only in Oklahoma, but also in this country. We know that we have more specimens to be tested than test kits to do the testing. Requests have been put in to replenish those testing supplies. We have no idea when those test kits will come in. That's why the recommendations around social distancing and not gathering in large numbers are so important. Without the capability of vaccines and therapies, without the ability to test people who are potentially positive, it's important that everyone listen to the recommendations, listen to what Mayor Bynum has ordered here in Tulsa, and not gather. The State Public Health Lab has only a handful, and handful is as close as we can come, of supplies to test individuals. They will only accept specimens for testing if the patient meets the criteria, including hospitalized individuals with symptoms, symptomatic individuals such as older adults or those with immunocompromised, or symptomatic people, including healthcare personnel who've had close contact with a suspect or lab-confirmed patient within 14 days of onset. The bottom line is that the number of lab-confirmed cases will continue to not be reflective of the number of individuals who are likely to be infected with COVID-19. The virus is spreading in our community. It's more important than ever to remain home if you are sick, limit close contact, and avoid gatherings. For patients who do not meet the criteria for testing, clinicians should submit specimens to a commercial lab. Our state lab cannot take these tests. Mildly ill patients should be encouraged to stay home and contact their healthcare provider by phone for guidance about clinical management. Patients who have severe symptoms such as difficulty breathing, fever, cough should seek care immediately. Older patients and individuals who have underlying medical conditions or who are immunocompromised should contact their physician early in the course of even a mild illness. I have sent a letter to all the incorporated communities in Tulsa County recommending the closure of bars, restaurants, and other facilities where people gather. I've been in contact with most of those city leaders. I'm in the process of meeting with most of those city leaders. We strongly support Mayor Bynum's executive order closing and restricting businesses. If we're going to protect people who live in Tulsa County, we have to come together about staying apart, and we have to do it now. There's no time frame here. We're in critical mass. We have virus spreading in our community. Also, effective March 19th today, the Oklahoma State Department of Health will suspend lobby services for vital records until further notice. This includes the offices in Oklahoma City, McAlester, and Tulsa. During this time, all vital records staff will remain on-site to fill an online phone and mail request. You can obtain these records online. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mayor Bynum.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dart. First, on behalf of all the citizens of Tulsa, I just want to extend our condolences to the family of the first victim of this virus in our city. As the first verified case of community spread in Tulsa, we know that this will likely not be the last. But the loss of any human life in Tulsa is a tragedy. This is a city that values life, every life. It's a city that believes that every life is important. And our hearts are with the family of this victim today, and we hope they know that. It is also, now that we have a confirmed case of community spread in Tulsa, it's a reminder of how important it is for all of us to be vigilant. I want the citizens of Tulsa to know that you have a city government that is fully mobilized to address this on all fronts and to do everything that we can, regardless of what it takes, to protect you. And so if that means regulations like we put in place earlier this week, or it means changing the way that we do business at the city, putting our business licensing program online as of today, or shuttering the dockets of our municipal courts for 30 days, which went into effect yesterday, we're going to do those things so that you can minimize contact with other people and increase your odds of not contracting this virus. This is something that all of us have a part to play in, and I think it's so important for everyone to understand why we've put these steps in place. We've put these steps in place. There's a lot of focus on, well, is it 250 people I can be around, or is it 50 people, or is it 10? There is no magic number in this. The less people you come in contact with, the better your odds are of not contracting this virus, period. There's not a given number where it's safe if you stay below that. The less people you're around, the better your odds. And we want to put the infrastructure in place as a community that can help every Tulsan minimize their exposure. That's why we took the extraordinary step that we took earlier this week to restrict restaurants, bars, and entertainment venues. That is one of the hardest decisions I'll ever have to make as a mayor, but we did it because we believe it will save lives in our community. I want to thank all of the Tulsa businesses who have complied with this order because they understand the importance of safety and of the lives of our fellow Tulsans. In the first day, we had, I think, some confusion just around when it went into effect, but I talked with Chief Franklin this morning, and on the second day of this order being placed, we had 0 complaints or reports of noncompliance with this order. I think that says so much about how we're pulling together as a community at great cost and great sacrifice to protect the lives of our fellow Tulsans. And I cannot thank all of those who are shouldering that sacrifice right now enough. Along those lines, today I'm hearing a lot of anger from people directed at some of our suburban communities. I think around some hesitation to adopt similar practices that would slow the spread of a virus, when I think there's an acknowledgement that there will not be hesitation to send residents of those communities to utilize beds and respirators in Tulsa hospitals. And I can understand that anger and frustration when we as a community are shouldering this sacrifice and doing it so that we can keep those beds and respirators available for those who need it most. and there are others who seem to hesitate on whether or not they should do it. I would say to my colleagues in our neighboring communities, I get that it's a hard choice, and it was not an easy choice here in Tulsa either. And so I don't begrudge them struggling and grappling with this decision one bit. I did too. But when you have the foremost public health advocates in our country at the Center for Disease Control, and you have the foremost public health advocates in our community at the Tulsa Health Department telling us, on one hand, that this is what we need to do to slow the spread of this virus so that we don't have overloaded hospitals and people who can't get hospital beds and people who can't get respirators because we had a spike in the number of people who need those facilities. You have that advice on one hand, and then on the other hand, you've got bumper sticker slogans and out of context quotes from founding fathers. I don't think that's a hard decision to make if you're focused on what should be the foremost responsibility for all of us, which is the public safety of our fellow Tulsans and the people that live in Northeast Oklahoma. So I remain hopeful. I have faith in my fellow public servants that they'll do the right thing. My thoughts are with them as they grapple with this decision, but I have faith that they'll do the right thing. At the same time, when we know that there's a lot of anger in Tulsa around this issue right now, and there's anger on other things, where did this virus come from? Why don't we have more tests available? Where are people eating on the weekends? Every day there's a new thing that people can get angry about on this. I would say to my fellow Tulsans, we don't have the luxury of being angry about things outside of our control. We need to focus on those things that we can control. That has been my message to my fellow Tulsans from the very beginning of this event. And for each of us, there are three big things that I ask all Tulsans to think about. One, again, we can't say this enough, minimize your contact with other people. The more you do that, the more you protect yourself, you protect your loved ones, and you reduce the odds of you spreading this virus to people that you love and care about. Number two, there are a lot of Tulsa businesses right now that are having to change their business models to adapt to this current environment. If you can afford to, please buy something from one of these local businesses every day of this event. Do they have great services, great food that you can order for takeout or delivery? Yes. But more importantly than any of that, there are great people that their dreams are wrapped up in those businesses. There are great people who work in those businesses. And if there's anything that we as individuals can be doing to help them through this time by supporting their businesses, we should. And so, again, I know that finances are uncertain and challenging at this time, but if you can afford it, there are lots of great lists out there that you can look up who has delivery and who has takeout and who have other services. I just saw today that Magic City Books is now selling books online. There are things like that you can do to support our fellow Tulsans. And the third thing that I would ask of all my fellow Tulsans that we can, again, control is to think about what you can do to share a reminder to your neighbors and the people that you love in this community that we're in this together. That's one of the challenges of this virus is that it isolates us. It keeps us in our homes. It keeps us out of workplaces and clubs and places where we would normally interact with the people that we care about. And that isolation can be a real challenge in its own right. If you have family members or people you care about that you know are home alone through this, call them up, talk with them. If you're so inclined, I had a fellow Tulsan yesterday suggest that we ought to put a Christmas light out in front of our house so that when people are driving around town, they see that physical reminder of that we're all in this together and that there is a light in the dark and that there is a reason for hope in this. My daughter and I, we went outside and we did that yesterday afternoon together as soon as we heard about it. And I've been really moved to see how many Tulsans just in the last 12 hours or so have started to do the same thing. So let's focus on the things that we can control. And if we do that, we're going to get through this together as a community. For all of the latest information that anyone needs on city services, how you can access those, what's going on with different city programs and offerings, you can go to cityoftulsa.org, and we're regularly updating that through each day with the latest information. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, County Commissioner Karen Keith.
I just want to say, well said, Mayor, on all fronts, and I just greatly appreciate his leadership, along with Bruce Dart, as this continues. We at the courthouse now have our hours are exactly the same, but there's only one entrance to get in. We are open 8 to 5 through March 30th, but you can only get in one way. We are asking for only essential business be done. Many of our staff are now home working on computers. So you will go through screening if you try to come into the courthouse at this point. So we urge the public to conduct your business over the phone, email, or postal mail. And we know it's uncomfortable, it's scary, but we made this decision to protect the health, safety, and welfare of our employees, constituents, and the public at large. So these steps will help us maintain critical services. I do want to mention what's going on with the courts. Critical services are continuing, including emergency protective orders, bond dockets for release, and any other constitutionally required services mandated by law. So we are following those, but those, if you need help, you call 911 at this point, and they will put you in touch with those services. So if you are, cooped up at home and there are domestic violence issues, please call for help and do what you need to protect yourself. Our court clerk is asking that you do everything with www.oscn.net. And again, you can find all this information on the Tulsa County website. Many of you are trying to pay your taxes before the end of the month. Again, you can do that. There are all sorts. There's a drop box outside the courthouse, so you can leave those payments there. They will get picked up. You can also do it by mail. Look on the treasurer's website, and that you can get help there. Inspections is also functioning with a minimal amount of people at the office, but they're working from home, and if you need help from inspections, they're there. An update on our parks. All the rec centers have been closed to the public, and this includes Chandler, Bixby, LaFortune, and O'Brien, and the South County Community Center. Now, during spring break, of course, all the camps were canceled, but at the tennis center right now, all the indoor courts are closed. You can still play outdoors, and our golf courses remain open at this time, and the only food service there is takeout. You cannot eat in the areas there. So lean on the Tulsa County website to reach out to every county division if you need some work done at the county, or your elected officials, and that's just tulsacounty.org. And so county elected officials cannot force any entity to shut down. Now, that has to come from the state health commissioner, Gary Cox. And I think it's so important that the state and our state health commissioner do what needs to be done to make sure we can nip this in the bud before it grows. Because, as you know, there are a shortage of test kits, so we don't know what we don't know. So I personally am urging them to do that. I am also personally, as an elected official, I am asking that our suburban areas please pay attention to what Mayor Bynum has done. Let's be smart. Let's contain this. And just do what we can do. For our restaurant workers and others who are laid off, I'm just going to tell you, Tulsa County has some job openings. The Sheriff Department, they need detention workers, and they will provide needed training. Census workers are also needed. So you can find all those things by Googling. Also, I want to mention that covidresources.ok.gov. That is a website that has been set up as a resource for small businesses. So please take advantage of that as well. Please use common sense. Keep your family safe. I mean, this isn't easy, but it's what we have to do at this time. So your city, your county, our health department, we as you can see, are all working very closely together. We will get through this, but to get through this, it means we all have to be smart, and we've got to work together. So please stay safe.